you had Zelensky that was warning for the last few weeks that the West was losing interest in the Ukraine war. Now, from the very beginning, it's something that RBN and our entire community was correct about. We all knew how the Ukraine war was going to end. We all knew that it would end the settlement. We all knew that Ukraine would not be able to undo the gains that was won by Russia. There's no possible way to do that. And the only thing that you guys are doing by arming Ukraine and not going for peace, the only thing you're really doing is allowing as many Ukrainians to die as possible before you get to a settlement. So this story, you're not going to see anyone in NATO left talk about this. Do you guys think that I'm going to let them forget about this? The NATO left has a lot to answer for. So because of the Israel-Hamas war, because now Biden is arming Taiwan to the teeth, there's a new article, I believe in Politico, that's like, man, Biden's sending a lot of weapons to Taiwan. You know it's bad when you got people in the establishment like, yo, what's going on here, bro? See, I saw the first article like that. I don't have time to cover it today. That's going on later this week. So yeah, Biden arming Taiwan to the teeth. You got the Israel-Hamas war that's going on. You got all this shit popping. You have the United States that's threatening war with Iran in order to protect Israel. I'm gonna show you that here a little bit soon. You have Biden. Actually, that's in my hotspot video. I'm gonna cover that later. Where Biden is sending nuclear submarines that have ability, nuclear potential to Iran to deter them and get involved with the genocide of the Palestinians. That's a tactic to delay so Israel can commence and finish their ethnic cleansing of Gaza. That's from the Biden administration. That's their goal. So because they're busy with all this crazy shit, CJ, they're like, this Ukraine war, this is a losing battle. We don't got any need for it. We got a new war to fearmonger people over. So now the United States and European officials are now giving Ukraine the A-OK to accept peace.
Wow.
And Zelensky is not handling it well. Because this is what he was complaining about. You know that these conversations was happening before the headline was written, right, CJ? We all know that. So Zelensky was giving us a preview of that, where he was like, oh my God, what the fuck? You guys are abandoning us in Ukraine. To the point where he had an interview where he was essentially begging for money. He was like, give us money like a credit card.
He's on Meet the Press. So this is Meet the Press. And there's a bunch of clips. It's not just this one. There's a bunch of clips. And it's curious to me, Nick, if you watch the entire interview, which I did on Meet the Press, part of it is in his native language where they translate it. And then part of it is where he speaks English first. And it seems like the part that has the most U.S. propaganda in it is the one that he says in English. It's so clear that he's being given what to say. It's so clear what he's being given what to say. But go ahead with the clip.
Yeah, I remember, and to show you guys how fake Zelensky is, I remember Zoya's love. Zoya's like, big shout out to her for making this observation. You guys know Zelensky native language is Russian, but when he does press conferences with Russian speaking, he pretend that he don't know the Russian language now. Like there was a press conference where like, can you guys translate this for me? Where when someone's speaking Russia, and then people online were like, bro, your native tongue is Russia. Why are you pretending that you don't speak Russian? There were stories early in his presidency of how Zelensky struggled with the Ukrainian language. And then he flipped it and pretending they struggle with the Russian language to sell the illusion that Russia and Ukraine are farther apart culturally than they actually are. That just show how snake-like he is, right? So this is the clip of him begging for money. And we're not going to go through all the clips. There may be another segment. I'm just showing you guys this to emphasize the point that the West is done with this shit.
You can't give us some financial support. Okay, please, give us a credit, and we will give you back money. If you can't give...
He's like, come on, man, do what you guys do. You guys put everything on credit cards, right? So this is not a long segment. That's why I want to do this segment now since we're late in the show. It's not a long segment. So I'm never going to let the NATO left forget about this because this is like the Ukraine war is done, fam. It's over. Like European politicians lost elections over this. You got Emmanuel Macron that's more popular than ever. European politicians are facing the brunt of the consequences of this decision. We see what happened in the United States, even though everyone here supports it here. So Europeans, they've been waiting for an exit strategy on this war because they see how unpopular it is. Now that the Hamas war happened, the Israel-Hamas war, they're now all using that as an excuse to ditch it. And they're now calling for peace in Ukraine now, advocating for peace because they're like, man, the counteroffensive failed. We're not getting anything. Exactly what we told you guys in the beginning of the war. So my question, and this is what I tweeted about, I'll just pull the tweet up. I said, now that Washington is considering peace in Ukraine, every single NATO leftist, and we talking about Matt Duss, Sam Cedar, Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian, Emma Vigeland, the boss, he like extremely passionate about this issue. All these people need to explain. They got a few questions I got to ask them. And I say every NATO leftist need to be held accountable and explain why they waited until the United States government said it was okay to negotiate peace. And I want to emphasize that point. So there are going to be people now that the United States said they're okay with negotiating with Russia. Now they're going to be like, okay, I guess we negotiate. Now they're going to be okay with it. The question I have for Matt Duss, the question I have for Sam Cedar, the question I have for every single NATO left, do you agree with this decision or not? You hear me, CJ? Do the NATO left agree with this decision by the United States government to negotiate for peace? If they do agree with it, why did they wait for the United States government to give them permission to advocate for peace? If they don't agree with it, why do they want to sacrifice more? There's so many ways you can take this. They need to explain in great detail why sacrificing 1 million Ukrainians to get where we all knew we will be at, a negotiated settlement, was worth it. The NATO left allowed their Putin derangement syndrome to ruin their morals and reputation. Marianne Williamson, reputation ruined. Nina Turner, reputation ruined. Bernie Sanders, even before he came out as a genocidal Zionist, reputation ruined. Because what did they say, CJ? They said, let's sacrifice as many Ukrainians as possible to deliver a Russia geopolitical L. They wanted Ukraine to die. They wanted Ukrainians to die just so Vladimir Putin couldn't get the win when we all knew that win was coming. So they was willing to be pawns of the Pentagon in the military-industrial complex who actually knew better. My thesis, not scientific, it's a thesis, is that the Pentagon and smart, intelligent people knew this would be the outcome. But you had many military officials, you had the EU, you had many Pentagon spokespeople that said the Ukraine war is good for us because it's a way for us to test weapons that we never seen in battle. We get to see the applications of weapons and techniques that we didn't get a chance to test before. This is what they literally said out in the open. So once again, I got a receipt to prove it to you guys. But my thesis is the Pentagon and the establishment knew exactly what was going on, and it was down to sacrifice Ukrainian lives for Wall Street and military-industrial complex profits. But the question is, CJ, why did the progressives go along with it then? And we know, and my thesis is, the establishment knew this would be the outcome, but they did for profits like Julian Assange laid out. Julian Assange explained that they knew they wasn't going to win Afghanistan, but it's about making money. So if the establishment and the neocons did it for that reason, why did the progressives support it? They supported war out of the love of the game, fam. That's the only conclusion I can come to. The last question, last thing I'll say here, the Ukraine war may be coming to the end, but there are a ton of progressives. Well, that's pretty much what I illustrated before. Anything else you want to add? Once again, not long.
Yeah, I do want to add one headline to this segment here. And then Nick, the Wonder Woman segment is like 3 minutes. So let me just show the tweet after this, and then we can comment and get out of here. But this is the headline, Nick. So as the money is drying up, Nick, for Ukraine funding and support is dying amongst voter Ukraine funding, you know what Zelensky said? Let's cancel some democracy again.
Oh, yeah, I saw this.
So I just want to include this with this segment. Yeah, so as funding is drying up, this is what Zelensky says. It's not the right time for elections in Ukraine right now. And I don't need to read the article at all, just the headline, but the point being is that we been saying all this time, Nick, we're in Ukraine fighting for democracy as Zelensky is canceling democracy. What other thing shows democracy than elections? Yeah. There's like, if you're trying to say, let me decide if this country is a democracy or not, the first thing you will look for is literally elections. That's the first thing. That's literally the first thing you'll look for, and you will look for that in Ukraine and be like, oh, there's no elections. There's obviously not a democracy here. But go ahead.
Yeah, I knew I forgot one receipt, but I'm gonna show you guys this because Glenn, I found this from Glenn. He's the first person I saw highlight this. Glenn says absolutely, and this is in response to this receipt where U.S. and European officials began quietly talking to the Ukrainian government about possible peace negotiations with Russia might entail to end the war, according to one senior U.S. official. So that's the headline. This is the receipt I was looking for earlier where they were talking about that. So Glenn says up here, excuse me, he says an absolutely brutal article where NATO is all but admitting they lost the war to Russia. So CJ, they essentially admitting they lost, because they claim victory was not Ukraine going for peace, though. They wanted Ukraine to get back their land. So now that they advocate for peace here, this is NATO, as Glenn Greenwald nails it here, admitting they lost the war. So you remember Morning Joe, every single NATO leftist, we're going to win this war. We're going to win this war. How many of these people are going to do a video about this, where NATO is admitting they lost the war against Russia, as every single true anti-imperialist network like RBN and all our friends was telling you from day one? We were called Putin apologists for telling you guys common sense that Ukraine was not going to defeat Russia in this war. Anyway, let me continue. Glenn says it's in an absolutely brutal article where NATO is all but admitting they lost the war to Russia and now must beg for peace, hoping Russia will be satisfied with 20% of Ukraine. There are going to be many people pretending they were against this monstrosity all along who weren't. And tick, tick, tick. Tick, tick, tick. How long until Anna Kasparian, how long until Sam Cedar, CJ, say, man, I took a lot of heat for advocating for peace in Ukraine. But despite the heat I got, I told him that Russia was going to win this war. That's what they always do, by the way. They get shit wrong. They got the Iraq war wrong. They always get the current war wrong.
Yes.
And then they go back in hindsight like, man, we should have known the United States was lying about weapons of mass destruction. It's a learning lesson. Then the next war come up. Then they believe anything the Pentagon says all over. So I just read this funny tweet, because this is what Cindy said earlier. I said, so essentially, the NATO left sacrificed all those Ukrainians for absolutely no reason. Well, I say nothing there, but so I want to ask Matt, that's a question. Why were you okay with allowing around 1 million of Ukrainians to die? Did they die for nothing? Why do you advocate for them to die for nothing, Bosch? Because that's what happened. Because you advocate for this war, because you were so stupid to think that Russia could lose to Ukraine, you was okay with hundreds of thousands. I use the low estimate because I saw the million number somewhere. I use the low estimate. Hundreds of thousands Ukrainians died. Was it worth it? It wasn't. So Glenn also says, I can already see various left-wing online influencers trying to be all snide and critical about what the United States did now, as they objected from the start, but a few did. Because every single Dem in DC, from AOC to Bernie, voted yes. Every progressive supported aid with Ukraine. And I snapshot memory every single fucking one of them. And these same people are going to be like, yeah, we should advocate for peace. Wait, I'm old enough to see this process multiple times. The same people that apologized for Obama destroying Libya, they now like, oh my God, it's so horrible that Obama destroyed Libya. They were the number one people fear-mongering about Gaddafi. Yeah, TYT. I remember that. That's why I never was into TYT. TYT fear-mongering about Gaddafi. Now in hindsight, they're like, man, this is awful that Obama destroyed Libya. Then you played a part of that. You know what I mean?